So the media is very important, the science is very important, but the real work is done when the collective understanding of humanity is at the level which is needed to ensure that we never pollute, we never destroy functional ecosystems. So there's different things that we need to deal with. We need to deal with the intellectual understanding. We need to deal with the sort of emotional understanding that to fall in love with each other, but also fall in love with the earth.
Welcome. I'm Dale Walkinen, and this is Facing Future. Everything depends on nature's resilience. Mangroves, forests, ocean pastures, and the soil itself all hold the keys to survival on our beautiful planet. Protecting and restoring these vital systems, as well as the Earth's hydrological cycles, needs to be a primary focus of the climate movement. We need to prepare for what's coming. The atmosphere now holds over 1 trillion tons of CO2 and the temperature is rising. The impact is being felt and the alarm sounded. It's not time to turn away, but to put our hands to the tasks that can chart a course through the choppy waters ahead. My guests today have shown that water cycles can be restored, fertility returned to degraded soils, and communities built around shared local efforts that can spread to a global paradigm shift. I'm delighted today to welcome filmmaker, ecologist, and researcher John D. Liu, ecosystem ambassador for the Common Land Foundation, and founder of the Ecosystem Restoration Camps, a worldwide movement that aims to restore damaged ecosystems on a large scale. Welcome, John.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And Sumitra Das, founder of the Healthy Climate Initiative, for which he was the keynote speaker recently in its leadership workshop for climate action and innovation in Assam, India. He's also a member of the Healthy Planet Coalition. Welcome, Sumitra.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
I'm so happy to have you two meet each other because you're both working so closely with nature and the same kind of effort. Sumitra, can we start with you? What's the story in India right now?
Indian story, climate change is affecting people really, really bad. Heat waves is affecting people in the northern states. For example, Delhi reached 49 degrees Celsius this year and the last year. And about 37 cities across 6 states crossed 45 degrees Celsius. So with humidity, the real feel of temperature is about 55 degrees Celsius. Now you can imagine what is happening if the people, most of the people, are working outside, outdoors working. 70% people work outside and 90% people do not have air conditioning. So that's one part of the story. The second part of the story, the flooding. So because of this, as you said, the hydrological cycle has been out of balance. So we are getting huge amount of downpours. At the same time, the glacial melt is rapidly increasing. So we are getting huge amount of flooding across India, but northern states are getting more brunt of this because of the closer to the Himalayas. Just to give you an example, in India, this year alone, probably 1 million people who have been rescued, and across South Asia, maybe 3 to 6 million people have to be rescued. So that's a huge, huge thing that is happening in India.
You have a great deal of effort going to prepare for what you're describing, but also to restore the natural systems. India is home to, I think it's 1.6 billion people, and China is not far behind, if not equal. But both countries are the highest producers and emitters of coal. India has the most cows. So what can be done to mitigate and to prevent some of the worst effects of what's going on? John, would you like to chime in?
Well, I would say in terms of the hydrological cycle, some of the issues that are being discussed have been experienced at extreme levels and early on for the Chinese. And so there was quite a lot of industrial pollution. There's been over-nutrification of waters. And one of the things that we're looking at here, I am and now in Great Britain. I mean, I'm only here for a short while because we're working on a new ecosystem restoration community here. But we are employing some of the concepts that have been used in China. And I would say that while the situations are dire, the Chinese talk about Wei Ji situations, which are danger and opportunity. So the danger is something that's really quite serious, but that's also the opportunity to restore this. And what we're seeing all over the world is until we get to these crisis points, then the traditional understanding doesn't need to evolve or isn't stimulated to evolve because it's stuck in the traditional thinking. I think what the Chinese and in other regards, sometimes the Indians are showing us what we have to do in terms of coming together as communities to address these problems.
Sumitra, you've been gathering people in conferences all across India, and bringing people together, which is so critical in this process. What both countries have is people, and as John showed in the Los Plateaux, thousands of people restored an area the size of France. So, people, what kind of steps can ordinary people take in these countries as the glacier melts? Can water be preserved? Can lakes be dug? Can there be underground structures? I don't know what kinds of things the structure John is in right now. New ways of thinking is what we need. What are you thinking, Sumitra?
So the theory here is that, if people have the right information, they will make the right decision. Most of the times when I meet people on the ground and even their representatives that are in the parliament or the assembly, that they see climate change is happening because they see the impact that they have not seen before. But they cannot connect the dots, why this is happening, and more importantly, what this is going to happen in the future. So these are the part that connecting the dots are very important. And that's what we try to do with the people. So what the people can do with the knowledge. So knowledge is the first part, the creating the awareness part. Among the civil societies, among the people, even among the academia that are not focusing on this. What we do, we try to ask them to call their representatives, to talk to, write, to make demonstration, and even spreading the news that this isn't normal and this is going to get worse. So this is something we try to change the system at the grassroots level so that it goes to the higher level. Going directly to the politicians or the representatives, which we are doing, is not totally effective unless at the grassroots level also are pushing their representative to the same, to act. Going back to Indian situation, it is more urgent because of the number of people living in a place, meaning 1/3 size of the US and about 4 times more population. So you have about density, high density people, and you have the North Himalayan glaciers, so melting fast. You have about 250 million people living close to the coastline. That's another thing as the sea level rising, that could be a problem. And more importantly, the wet bulb temperature exceeded over 31 degrees Celsius and in many places 32 and 33 degrees Celsius. So this is a very dire situation because you can think about if the wet bulb temperature exceeds 35 degrees Celsius, those places may not be livable because the people cannot survive in that temperature. And that could lead to what I don't know, I cannot even imagine social conflicts, mass migration, and whatnot. So immediate something we need to think about that is, in the next 20, 30 years, we need to somehow manage those situations. I do not see there is any plan at the moment. And we try to bring awareness of the situation and try to act at the ground level as well as at the higher level.
Well, where can people live? Can ecosystems be protected from the floods and droughts that are coming? What can be done? Where can people move to?
That is
Since everywhere is in threat, and there's so many people that need to be moved.
This is the question we are raising to the people that to protect immediately. And there are certain solutions, nature-inspired solution that we do have that there is no guarantee at the moment, but at least can rapidly cool the system and may protect those communities that are most vulnerable today. And that's what we are trying to do. Localized sunlight reflection methods, for example, to cool a city or households or a specific region, that if we could do that, then potentially we can help mitigate this crisis. And that's what we're trying to bring awareness to the people.
If I could add something to that, certainly the early work that I did documenting the restoration of the ecosystems in the Loess Plateau, the upper and middle reaches of the Yellow River, showed that it's really not something which is wrong with the earth. It's human impacts which are altering how the natural systems had self-evolved and self-organized from a biological perspective to mitigate the physics on the earth. So when you have a high canopy with, say, thousands of year-old trees, for instance, let's say 170 meters would be where you would find, say, sequoias or redwoods. Now, if you realize that when the solar radiation is interrupted at 170 meters in the air, it's very different than if it directly hits the surface of the earth. So when you understand that all of that potential for mitigation of diffusing the different solar radiation issues, and when you find, say, sacred groves or maybe biodynamic farms or places that have been protected, sacred sites that have been protected for hundreds or thousands of years, then you find, well, there's massive biodiversity and there's huge amounts of biomass and there's huge amounts of necromass. So the soils are not just there for growing food, they're there for natural ecological function. So they accumulate because each generation of life dies and gives up its body. And this is billions of years. So human beings have only been around for tens or hundreds of thousands of years. And it's really only in the last, say, 10 or 12,000 years that we really know what the impacts of human beings have been. And we can see that those, from a scientific perspective, it's the opposite of evolutionary succession. We've had always less biodiversity, always less biomass, and always less accumulated organic matter or necromass. So the numbers tell us, the measurements tell us that the carbon was removed from the atmosphere by photosynthesis and was put into the ground. And what we're experiencing now is disequilibrium, where we have begun emitting millions of years of accumulated carbon. And so now we have carbon disequilibrium, but that doesn't mean that carbon or CO2 is a poison. It means that human beings don't understand how the system works. And when you understand how the system works, then you see, oh, we are acting as if going shopping is the basis of our economy. But the reality is that an oxygenated atmosphere, a freshwater system, fertile soils, and biodiversity are the basis of life on Earth and vastly more valuable than anything that human beings can make and everything that human beings will ever make. Because we're ignorant of the value of what all the life forms on Earth have done and are doing to self-organize to regulate the ecology. So I think our first requirement is to understand this conceptually. So the media is very important, the science is very important, but the real work is done collectively when the collective understanding of humanity is at the level which is needed to ensure that we never pollute, we never destroy the functional ecosystems. So we're still not there yet. We need to deal with the sort of emotional understanding that to fall in love with each other, but also fall in love with the earth and the amazing miracle of life, which the only planet we know of that has an oxygenated atmosphere, a freshwater system, amazing biodiversity. And so fertile soils, I mean, extraordinary. So we still have a long way to go. We're not the last generation. We're just here passing through. We're supposed to bring consciousness to life, where we understand our relationships with one another, we understand our relationships with all other life forms, and we understand that we're spiritual beings experiencing physicality for a very short while. And the next generations are coming, and we have a responsibility to them. And we can look at the earlier generations and we can say, well, there are things we could do better than genocidal war or slavery or, mercantilism. We can do better than that. So that's where I think we're at.
I totally agree with you, John. There's no question about all the things that is happening, increasing the human connection between us, improving our consciousness, and understanding the ecosystems ultimately is the solution to this the crisis that we have created. But what I am more worried about is the immediate impact, and that's what worries me the most. And when I look at it, particularly those mid-latitude countries, global south, and in particular South Asia and India, because that's where my focus is, that in the next 20 to 30 years, it's a challenge for the world, but definitely for those countries and the people, and of no fault of their own. They did not create this problem. African nations, in India or Bangladesh or Pakistan, did not cause this problem, and they are going to have the brunt of this situation. But not only for those countries, if the people start migrating, where would they go? They are going to go to global north. And think about that in Syrian refugee crisis, and only a few million people caused the global crisis. And now we are talking about 1 billion people migration. How do we stop that? That what staying me up all night, or that is my worries, that how could we manage the situation next 20, 30 years? In the long run, we have to change our relationship, the mercantile, that mechanism, the way we're running, the economic relationship to it. We have to change that. This is not the way we can sustain this planet, and totally understand that. But that will take a longer time period. But in the meantime, we need a band-aid to stop
What,
the bleeding.
Well, there
yeah,
are some band-aids, marine cloud brightening, covering the glaciers with reflective clay, uh, all these kinds of things, even the stratospheric aerosols that everybody's so terrified about. It has been framed as a thing between fossil fuels and renewable energy. And I think that completely misses the point. It's leaving out the life support system.
I think that we have answers. I have observed over my adult life the transformation of China from poverty and isolation into a modern superpower. And when we look backwards in time over, say, the last 700 years or something like this, we see that there's quite a bit of impacts from the emergence of new cultures in the European world. And they came with some philosophical thinking which was not quite as evolved as what you would find in the Andes or in the Himalayas or in East Asia or some of these places. I mean, you had a Catholic papal bull about the decree of discovery, which allowed Europeans to go throughout the world and conquer and enslave and colonize and kill, and then to suppress the local cultures, which meant that the concepts that they were working under about mercantilism, about transactional economics, became the global norm in this global civilization and society that we have now. And this is the cause of the idea of materialism being the basis of life, and that I can own everything if I have the power to steal it from you. I mean, that's ridiculous. Now you have all the people go to school and they're told you've got to get a good education so that you can go up the social ladder, and then you will be an oppressor of the people who are poor. So is that our choice, to be oppressed or to be oppressors? That's terrible. We're human beings. We need to work together to solve this problem. We need to not talk about only the problem, and certainly not only look at abiotic, mechanical, or theoretical answers to this. Every human being has a role to play. If we all grow soils, if we all restore the water, if we all protect and encourage increases in biodiversity, and we all share, there's plenty. We could end poverty now. We're at a totally different place than we were in the past. But why are these trends the way they are? They're there because we're consuming the earth. We're mining the soils. We're mining the water. So everyone needs to understand what's causing this, and everyone needs to see, oh, we have a possibility to change it. And what we're seeing with ecosystem restoration communities is that if people choose to do that, everybody has a role to play. Everybody can do this. And the value creation from that is higher than making plastic flip-flops or garden furniture and shipping it around the world in ships and selling it. So that's what we need, is to lower our carbon emissions, lower our consumption. We need to share with one another, and everyone has a home. Everyone has food security. Everyone has medical care. Everyone has education. And in this case, everyone's energy, its chi, is flowing together to answer these problems, to reach consciousness and understanding about what is causing the climate differences. Anyway, sorry,
Well,
I'm
local
ranting.
ecological. That's all
So
right.
just to add to that, Dell, if we could, all of us could think this planet is our home, and everybody in this planet is our family, then we will not do the things that we are doing to our home, and will not destroy our family the way we have been doing. In India, when we grew up, we had to learn in Sanskrit that the old adage called Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that means the whole world is your family. So we learned these things and it was taught to us, and it was the old adage in Sanskrit. And if we can have that in our consciousness, that the whole world is our family, then perhaps we have a chance to save this world and stop the destruction that is happening. But I go back to this again, this my point. I'm more worried. And I totally get that point what John is bringing. And we are also working towards restoration, ecosystem restoration by planting mangrove, working with the local community, village community, by doing the local plantation, improving the indigenous economy. But immediate next 20, 30 years is a crucial time that we need to manage. I see the danger is looming on us and we are not acting on this.
Well,
Well,
let's
of course,
act.
India is in great danger from so many different vectors. I do want to push back a little bit that India is totally blameless because it is producing huge amounts of coal. It did interfere in the Glasgow Agreement to phase out coal. Also, there's a lot of methane coming out of India and China. And also, the Chinese are not blameless either. Yes, people were pulled out of poverty. But of course, we know that China is now the greatest polluter year after year, although it has more renewable energy coming online and has done great restoration projects. The only blameless people in the world probably are the most affected on small islands. But for the most part, everybody has played a part in this destruction. I mean, we heat our houses, we drive our cars, we fly our planes. We're all in it. We're all damaging the environment every day. And the renewable energy process is mining and extracting. And we really, really need to look at nature, which is why I love both of your work that you're doing, in order to understand how we can survive on the planet, because that's where life comes from. I'm so happy to have both of you today on Facing Future and to have you meet each other and get to know each other's work. And look forward to talking with you again in the future. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Dale. It's been an honor to meet John and to talk to your audience. And hope to see you and talk again in the future.